Hello, everybody, and welcome in to another episode of the Couch GMs podcast. It is Wednesday, July 26th, 2023. I'm your host, George Kerth, joined by the one and only Tyler Snyder and special guest, betting expert, Tyler Kempy, as we affectionately know him. Guys, I know my Twitter feed has been absolutely blowing up these last few days with training camp starting. Are you starting to feel the hype?
I am personally. I can tell you that, like, I want to say a month ago, I was like, man, we're still talking football. Like, we're in the middle of baseball season. Why are we talking football? But we're starting to get close. I'm starting to feel that itch, and I'm starting to really get excited for the football season coming up. It's getting real.
Yep, training camps are starting up. Those puffed up helmets are starting to come out. It's exciting to see, and I'm excited that football's just right around the corner.
Yeah, I want to get
And
a
nice to
puffy
have
helmet.
you.
for a
Puffy helmet?
party.
Oh, yeah, the puffy helmets, yeah.
I'd like to get one.
I know Cody's not going to be here with us today. I actually do have to make one more little announcement. I think he's a little sad he's not here for. But if you remember back to a few weeks ago, I guess 2 episodes ago, we were talking about interesting fantasy football league ideas. We have decided to open up maybe the most ambitious fantasy project that we have here as a podcast. Kempy's going to be part of it as well as 26 of our other closest friends and biggest fantasy competitors. So we're going to give you a ride along this the entire season. We are introducing the Couch GMs World Cup. It is a 30-man league made up, like you said, of 30 of our closest friends and best people that we know at fantasy football, basically running 3 years of qualifying leagues to try to find the best of the group, and who will then compete in year 4 in a 10-team redraft for bragging rights as a World Cup champion. So I know, Snyder, you know a little bit more about this. Kempy, you're a little bit out of the loop. You just have like the early ideas. Tyler, anything to add?
Yeah, it's not just going for bragging rights. I mean, look, we're playing for money too. We're playing for money, and we're gonna have a trophy of some kind. I don't know if it's gonna be a WWE belt. I don't know if it's gonna be a super fancy trophy. We'll find something. Either way, this is a big league. This is something that is definitely interesting. It brings out a whole new level of strategy. It brings out a whole new level of interest. Something that people can really get on board with, and something that our fans here can follow along with over our entire 4-year course and see who's winning.
Yeah, it's super exciting. And if you want to follow along with that, make sure you're following us everywhere on our social medias at the Couch GMs. I'm sure we'll be posting a lot of content on TikTok about that as well. You can also join our fantasy discussion on Discord. That link will be in the description of the video or podcast you're watching or listening to. All right, guys, we actually have some news to hit today on like how it has been in the past. So why don't we sit back, relax, and chat? I know Tyler can see our rundown. Take it away with item number 1.
All right, so pretty decent piece of news. Kind of small, but whatever. DeAndre Hopkins has signed with the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, boo.
I mean, it doesn't come as a complete shock. I mean, we kind of expected this to be one of the teams that he would be interested in. I mean, it's the first team that he visited on free agent visits. But still, D-Hop came out and said that he wanted to play with a team that he felt he could win a championship with, and then signs with the Titans. He said he wanted to play with a quarterback that is good. He wanted to play with a strong quarterback, and signs with Ryan Tannehill. And a lot of people out there are making fun of this move so hard. They're like, you want to win a championship, or you go to Tennessee? I think a lot of people are expecting the Titans to be bad this year. They expect them to be in a full rebuild because, they fired their GM. They missed the playoffs. But in all honesty, the same team that was a number 1 seed going into the playoffs 2 years ago is a very similar team to the team we have now. You don't have A.J. Brown, but you have DeAndre Hopkins. You don't have Julio Jones. You don't have Corey Davis. You don't have those guys, but you have Treylon Burks. I feel like the wide receiver group is actually stronger now. You still have Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill has been a very solid regular season quarterback. Dude just struggles in the playoffs. Titans were only bad last year because they couldn't stay healthy. They were actually a very dominant team in the first half of the year until all the injuries started piling up. So I think D-Hop signing to the Titans is actually a huge, huge move by the Titans, and I really do think it puts them right into that competitive force. Are they a favorite to win a Super Bowl or anything? No. But I feel like they should be a favorite to at least make the playoffs, if not win the division. And once you get into the race, I mean, we've seen it before. All you have to do is make it in. You never know.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Snyder. You mentioned favorites, and that's one of my favorite things is looking at the lines, looking at the betting lines. I was so surprised to find out that when D Hop signed, the Titans were at plus 8,000 to win the Super Bowl, and they remained plus 8,000 to win the Super Bowl. So I don't know what Vegas is missing out here, but you are right. This should be a big jump because it should increase their division chances. It should increase the conference chances, which ultimately would impact a Super Bowl chance. So I'm very surprised that that line has not adjusted at all.
I mean, there's a couple of things that Hopkins wanted. It wasn't just the things that Tyler said. I mean, obviously winning a championship is a big one because he's, on the wrong side of 30, coming towards the end of his career. Quarterback was a big thing. Tannehill is not the worst quarterback in the league, even though we've been talking about Tannehill replacements and he's been struggling and whatever it might be. But he also was big on finding a head coach that, players can actually vibe with and is a respected coach in the league. Mike Vrabel is that. And finding a front office that is stable, which even though, like I had mentioned a few episodes ago, Tennessee just had a GM change, their front office is one of the more stable in the league at this point, coming from Arizona, especially. That was not so much. So there's a lot of boxes that the Titans checked. And if he's on board with trying to help one of these young quarterbacks, rip up through the system really quick, he's still probably got 3-4 years left in his career. This was a 2-year deal, if I'm not mistaken.
2-year deal, yep.
But there's no, denying there's a chance he comes back for longer than that. He has a chance to elevate quarterback play too, because we've seen a lot of times where star receivers have come onto teams and made a quarterback better. Never know if Ryan Tannehill is going to have a turnaround season or if one of these rookies is going to come in early and outplay the rookie expectations.
Yeah, so I find it interesting that you mentioned Mike Vrabel, and I just wanted to throw it out there that DeAndre Hopkins actually said that a big reason why he wanted to play here was he said when he was in Houston and Mike Vrabel was a defensive coach over in Houston, he said that Vrabel used to check up on him every day, see how he's doing, seeing how he's feeling, seeing if there's anything he could help him with. That's a defensive coach talking to a wide receiver, not a head coach. And yet he still checked up on him every day, pushed him, tried to make sure that he was doing everything okay, and trying to make sure that anything he needed, he was there to help him with. And he said that really stuck with him. It's something he never saw again after he left Houston. And it made him really like Vrabel and really want to come play for Vrabel because, that speaks volumes about a coach. But, Kempy's the betting guy. I like fantasy, so I'm going to talk about the fantasy implications of this. So, stop me if I'm wrong here, guys, because I am the homer. So, I might get a little hype about this more than most people. But last year, Titans had a horrendous offensive line. The entire offensive line is revamped. They also had one of the worst play callers in the league, very vanilla playbook. They have a completely new offensive coordinator, so things can change. But what this does is the Titans have only ever had one good receiver and then a scrub outside of it. So having DeAndre Hopkins, I'm excited for Treylon Burks. I'm excited for the defense focusing on DeAndre Hopkins, opening up Treylon Burks and giving him some ability to really take a step forward this year, really let the exciting sophomore show what he can do. Also, what it does is now that you have two good receivers back there, and you have a tight end in Chig who really does show a lot of offensive power. He's not a blocker. He is a receiver. He is a runner. Now that opens up the box. You can't just stack 8 men in the box for Derrick Henry every single play like they have been for years. Because if you stack 8 men in the box, that leaves DeAndre Hopkins and Treylon Burks in man-on-man coverage, and you're going to get burned. So that should loosen up the box for Derrick Henry a little bit. So everybody expecting a downturn from him this year, you might see him bounce back a little bit more than we were really expecting. Right? Get to see vintage Derrick Henry. What do you guys think?
I absolutely agree. I like how you mentioned with not only D Hop with fantasy implications, but it affects the whole entire team there. Bringing him in will definitely gather some looks from some defenders and could be huge for the fantasy game and could be a revamp. You mentioned Derrick Henry, but Ryan Tannehill especially. And I know they have a few different quarterbacks coming in there, young potential, but this could be Tannehill's year to show it that he can still hang around with an increasing age.
Put some fantasy stock early in the season on the wide receivers in Tennessee, and then put some stock later in the season on Derrick Henry is the way I'm looking at it, because they're going to keep stacking the box against Henry since they know that he's the guy they want to get involved. He's still going to do okay, but until the receivers and hopefully Chig can, make defenses be honest, then you're going to see the biggest change. So it's going to be an adjustment, I think, throughout the season. But But no, I think that this could be a great season to have Derrick Henry as maybe the biggest fantasy steal we've seen him in a while, especially because, like Cody mentioned last week, he's not going until round 2, and he has 100% chance to go top 3 running back again by the end of the year.
Yeah, and I mean, Chigo Conquo is a unknown tight end, but I'm telling you guys, you need to look at him in fantasy drafts this year. And Ryan Tannehill, like Kempy said, I mean, whether you like Tannehill or not, with D Hop and Burks, he should be able to have some good playmaking ability. He's also been well known for being good with his legs, and yet he's currently quarterback 30. 30. You cannot tell me there's 29 quarterbacks better than him in fantasy right now. I don't believe it. But guys, I can get on a tangent talking about the Titans all day. You know this, but that's not what our fans are here for. So, let's go ahead and move on to some more running back news. And that is really just running backs all around the league. Derrick Henry was in on this call, but there was a call that happened with Austin Eckler and Josh Jacobs and a number of running backs around the league talking about the declining pay for the running back position. There's a lot of running backs, including guys like Tony Pollard and Saquon and all of them that are frustrated that they got franchise tagged and they can't reach a long-term deal. So I've seen a lot of debate on this around the league. You see that, running backs are one of the toughest positions. They're getting hit on every single play, and yet they don't get paid for it. And um, but then you also see the arguments of running backs are replaceable. I mean, if you have a good offensive line, do you really need that good of a running back? Or can you put in a mid-level running back with a great offensive line and still do great? So what's your thoughts on this, guys? What do you think about the whole running back pay scale?
This is such a difficult topic to look at as a fan. I'm sure as somebody in the GM's office, a scouting department. You think about it, running backs are rare in the case that they block, they catch, they run, they will do anything on that field more than any other position primarily, and they're not getting paid for it. And then once again, once they are doing what they need to do, let's say they're expected to go out there and get 2,000 yards. They're supposed to catch X amount of balls. They're supposed to um, get a certain amount of yardages after the run or after they catch. They get that, and then they're viewed as, well, they might not be good. They might get injured. They're kind of used up. So it's difficult because when they perform well, they're then viewed as, well, they might be done. They might be on the decline. It's hard to look at. What do you think, George?
I think the league has overreacted to the replaceable running back theory. I don't know if that's actually the way that we're naming it, but I'm just going to go with that as the name. Because there's star running backs out there who are special talents, are bigger than this whole entire scenario, that aren't getting the love that they should be. Like Saquon Barkley is the biggest example. Josh Jacobs coming off of a career year. Tony Pollard coming off of a career year. How do you differentiate what these guys mean to an offense as opposed to somebody like a Justin Jefferson who just got a big contract, and AJ Brown who just got a big contract? Like there's plenty of running backs out there that are going to want to jump on this I want more money bandwagon that might not deserve it. So there's a lot of mid-range guys, like I'll say a Miles Sanders, for example, who actually did get paid, but he didn't get a huge contract, but bigger than I expected him to, who maybe, aren't as deserving of that second contract. But then there's star running backs out there that can make a big difference to a team, aka a Dalvin Cook, who's sitting out there not getting paid because teams don't want to pay the next tier of money that they do deserve because they can make a difference. So there's a group of probably 10, 15, maybe if you push it 20 guys that deserve this second contract, that deserve this kind of, respect that they're not getting. And teams instead are paying the mid-tier running backs because they're trying to find a discount, or going out there in the draft and just trying to find the next thing. And it's pushing star players out of the league. So there's some kind of a sense to this, some of these running backs don't deserve to get paid, but some of them that do, the league is pushing towards, I would rather not pay them. And it's just wrong for the fact that we're kind of being gypped out of some talented players not getting snaps now, and it's an entertainment problem. But two, these guys putting so much into the league and then not being shown the respect that they're deserving.
Yeah, look, I see both sides. I do believe that running backs do deserve to be paid, when they are an essential running back. I mean, you're talking about guys like Derrick Henry, guys like Christian McCaffrey, guys like Austin Eckler, the guys that really put their team on their back and make a huge difference. But then let's also talk about some of the other big running backs. So Ezekiel Elliott's been one of the bigger running backs for the last few years, and yet Tony Pollard has been just as productive. Aaron Jones just got paid, and yet was it worth giving him that much money when you have AJ Dillon performing just as well when he's in there? Um, Guys like Nick Chubb, is one of the best running backs right now. Um, but if Nick Chubb is in, well, when Kareem Hunt's in, he's getting just as good of stats. Now, I want to go back and look at 2019. So I want to look back just a little bit. And 2019 is really not that long ago, guys. And yet, yes, top running backs, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones. Sure, all still in the league, but let's look after that. We got Zeke, not on a team. Dalvin Cook, not on a team. In the 8th position, Mark Ingram, Chris Carson at 9. At 12, we have Todd Gurley. We have Leonard Fournette. We have Marlon Mack, Kenyon Drake, Philip Lindsay, Le'Veon Bell, all guys that aren't even on a team anymore. And that was only a few seasons ago. I mean, look at 2020. You got Dalvin Cook, Kareem Hunt, Ezekiel Elliott, Kenyon Drake, Chris Carson, all top running backs. Mike Davis. I mean, whatever happened to him? So you look at running backs, they really are short-lived. I mean, outside of your top guys, you see at the top of the board every year, they really aren't living that long. So then it kind of brings up the question of guys like Jonathan Taylor, who are really young, but we've seen them have really top seasons, and we've seen them fall off the face of the earth. So is it worth giving a guy like him a big contract now that it's ending when you're finding these guys kind of replaceable within a few years?
Do you guys have
Sadly,
any?
though, are you going to ask if we have any ways to fix this?
Yeah. What's your first idea? Like immediately first comes to mind. How are you going to solve this? If you're Roger Goodell?
Eliminate the plug and play contract for rookies is the only thing I can think of, because everybody is 4-year contract locked in no matter what you do, and first rounders get a 5th-year option. Because that's the only thing that's really holding back running backs. If they get drafted, they're getting a 4-year deal, and by the time they hit year 5, or if they're drafted in the first round, year 6, they're hitting that point that Snyder's talking about, where they're starting to lose the tread on the tires and starting to struggle, and teams don't want to pay them because they think they might only have 1 season left. And then the franchise tag comes in, and this is where we have this whole entire dumpster fire that's going on right now. Maybe they change it so that contracts are based by position. Maybe quarterbacks get 5-year deals and running backs get 2 or 3-year deals. I don't know if that's even going to be possible, or if, agents are going to find that fair in the CBA, because then, then you're getting less money guaranteed coming out of the draft. But there's no real good option. That's the first thing that came to my mind, though.
So the other piece of news we found is that Saquon Barkley did sign with his team rather than the franchise tag, and I think you're going to see a lot more contracts like his. So his contract is hugely incentive based. So he is making less than the franchise tag with his base salary, but with incentives, he could make more than he was going to on the franchise tag. So I feel like with running backs, we're going to see a lot more incentive based contracts, a lot of a smaller base salary, but look, you got to prove yourself. Sorry,
And
it said
the no
said I lost
franchise
connection there
tag
for a second.
clause.
Mhm.
Oh, you're good. And he had a no franchise tag clause for next season, which was pretty interesting because I don't think I've ever seen that before. But that's one way to not be like, oh, I'm going to get locked in with this team, without a choice again.
Yeah, and maybe
Right.
that's what it has to come down to, is the no franchise tag in general for running backs. I mean, look at where Saquon would be without a franchise tag. Look where some of these running backs would be without the franchise tag. They would be in the market right now where they could make a lot of money, but instead teams just have the ability to tag them immediately. That's the part that it could maybe be fixed. There's a lot to look at the next time they sit down with the collective bargaining agreement, because that could open up a whole can of worms, whether it's shortened contracts or no franchise tag for certain positions.
Yeah, and
But
maybe
there's
even coming
nobody.
up
I don't
with
think
some
there's anyone
type
out there at
of
all
I was gonna say
that
maybe
likes the
even coming up with
franchise
some
tag.
kind of contract type where it's like, if a running back is placed on IR, like running back only. If a running back is placed on IR, he still gets paid in full, but his salary for the games he's on IR no longer count against the cap. Something that could be team friendly, but also player friendly because nobody's losing money out on that. Because that's the big thing is you give a running back a big contract, and with the amount of punishment that they take, if they're 28 years old or 29 years old, and they take punishment like running backs take. I mean, why do I want to pay a bunch of money to a guy who might not stay healthy the whole season, who might only play 4 games? Well, if you can come up with a way to structure it so that if he does get placed on IR with injury, he doesn't count against the cap, it frees up some money for next year or for that year for you to get replacements. Maybe that'll work. I don't know. There's a reason they pay guys big bucks in the NFL to fix these things, and we are Couch GMs.
100%. I was just going to throw in, I don't think any player likes being franchise tagged. There's very few that sign their deal or don't, give it without some kind of a fuss. Maybe the franchise tag itself is something that's a dying breed, and you're going to find something else coming up, like maybe, change in like restricted free agency or something like that would still give the team with the player some kind of say, but not lock a player in as deeply as the franchise tag does. But I don't know. We have to see what happens as we move along here, but these running backs are starting to put together a little bit of stink, and I think it's going to be like similar to how tight end you kind of brought, a lot more light to the tight end position. We're going to see some running backs doing some things similar to that. Couple injuries to hit before we keep moving on to what everyone's here for with sports betting. Nyheim Hines was in an unfortunate jet ski accident away from the complex, and he is out for the season with a knee injury. We actually heard his injuries were very serious, but not life-threatening. So I hope that he makes a full recovery and can get back out on the field as early as next season. And then another note, Chiefs wide receiver Kadarius Toney had to get a knee cartilage cleanup in his knee, the same knee he had injury issues with last year. He's hoped to be back for week 1, but we are not sure. Anything to add there before we move on?
No, nothing to add there, but we do have a piece of news that broke at least while we're here.
Okay.
So the Chargers and Justin Herbert have agreed to terms on a 5-year extension worth $262 million, including monster guarantees to protect Herbert and lock him in for the future. Massive
and kiss
deal.
goodbye to Eckler.
Yeah.
And kiss goodbye to Eckler.
Yeah. I just heard
Lamar Jackson's time as the highest paid NFL quarterback is slightly longer lived than Jalen Hurts, but not a lot.
Wow.
It is crazy.
Wow.
No, but mentioning some of the injuries that George just mentioned, the one thing that comes to mind with Nyheim Hines, it's an unfortunate situation. It does open up space for a running back looking for a team right now. The Bills, I know they already have one Cook. Perhaps they could be making a call to Dalvin Cook as well, which could really open up their market with the betting odds too. I know we're going to get into it a little bit. They're plus money right now to win the division, but if Dalvin Cook joins them, that would be I think is a big boost to their offense. And the other one about Toney. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you would have told me a few years ago that we'd have guys like Kareem Hunt, Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, all just chilling on the bench, waiting to get signed, like just hoping somebody calls them. Like, I'd call you crazy because like these are some of the best running backs in the league, just not very long ago. And it wouldn't surprise me if there's other running backs that are moved before the start of the season. Other big starting running backs get cut. It wouldn't shock me. So it's just crazy to me to see that level of talent on free agency. It's good for a competing team. You lose your top guy. You're able to go pick up another stud right off the bench or right off free agency and be fine. But it sucks for these players because, it takes some time to get up to speed, learn a playbook and everything else. So the longer we go into this offseason without them being signed, the more it's going to take for them to get up to speed once they do finally get to a team.
Yeah, and I'm terrified that if they remain on free agency, that you are just going to swipe them off the Madden free agency roster as soon as we log into that game. We need some ground rules here this year. We're going to set up rules on who can sign all 5 running backs that are going to be great talents to your Madden teams immediately.
Why do you think I'm the commissioner in our Madden leagues every year? So I can set up a league, pick up the free agents before you guys are even in it. I cheat. It's fine. None of them
John
have the
Ross
speed for
had
me
no
anyway.
chance.
It's fine.
All right. So Kempy, as we mentioned many times, and as he's been on the show before, has talked plenty of sports betting with us. Why don't we do a little season sports betting preview.
All right. So, kind of looking at the odds a little bit here, I went down each division, just kind of looked at the odds. I looked, will they make the playoffs? Will they not make the playoffs? Look at season long props. This is the perfect time of year to start looking at some odds because if you are into sports, if you're especially into fantasy and you have kind of clues on what might be happening, this is the perfect time where you can get an early head start on getting more value on your odds. So looking at each team, I just kind of went through a list here and picked out some of the ones that I really like in particular. Snyder and George are also going to give some feedback on it. But starting at the AFC East, we have the Bills at plus 120, almost even money line, but that's still in the air with a few decisions that need to be made. Jets plus 270, Dolphins plus 300, and Patriots plus 800. Now, while sports betting, it might not be who you think is going to necessarily win and who might be the best team. You have to think about who has the best value that, if they were to win, how can you get the most bang for your buck? So, guys, if you were to look at the AFC East in particular, while this team might not be your favorite and who you think is going to win, do you have any odds that you really want to look at there that catch your attention?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of plus odds in general. Anytime that I can make a bet that I feel super strongly about and get plus odds on it, I'll take it because I'm more than doubling my money. And, you know, I know you said maybe not taking the best team, but I feel like the Bills are a great bet right here. Plus 120 for a team that I could easily see winning this division. I feel like the Jets are a little overhyped. I feel like the Dolphins are good, but not great enough to be on this list. Patriots are not competition in my eyes. I feel like I could see the Bills easily winning this division, and yet you get plus odds with it. If I didn't take the Bills, I would be taking the plus 300 with the Dolphins, though, because I feel like they have the talent to at least make the run at it. It's, can they fire on all cylinders this year and really put a whole package together? Last season, we saw it in chunks where they were a good team here and a good team there, but they missed a gap. So we need to see them be a good team all season long. I'm just not sure if they're there yet, but that plus 300 is a little tempting.
Yeah, I was going to be the one I was going to spotlight was the Dolphins having worse odds than the Jets is 100% Aaron Rodgers and this young Jets team hype. I mean, there's plenty of chance that the Jets can go out there and, really win a lot of games and make a push, but it's a very young team. Rodgers, backside of his career, he did have a decent second half in Green Bay, but new system, you don't really know what's going to happen. The Dolphins are an established team that they just need a quarterback to stay healthy, and man, I hope Tua doesn't get any more concussions, please. And if that's the case, they're right up there fighting with the Bills. Even without Tua at times last year, they fought with the Bills. So they're my favorite in this, but the fact that you can take who is truly the favorite in Buffalo and get plus odds is great to me.
Yeah, plus odds. That I completely agree with what you guys said about plus odds. I hardly ever, when I open up my sports book, I hardly ever look at the minus odds. I want to see where can I find the most value because yes, as tempting as it is, even if I think the minus is going to win, I want to scroll a little bit and see where can I get the most value for even cheaper price. So I do like how you guys mentioned the Jets at plus 270. I definitely feel like that's an overinflated line with the Rodgers hype. I mean, I also look at some other alternates. The Jets to make the playoffs is minus 130. So while it's still on the favorite side, that's not a guaranteed bet. So it's kind of hard for me to picture, if the Jets don't win the division, that they're definitely going to make the playoffs, and that they're just giving it a coin flip of minus 130 to make the playoffs. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on, but I might hit the Bills money line, especially while they're still plus money. Going on to the
Yeah,
AFC
after
North.
week one, if they win big, it's in the minus again.
Yeah, and this is like I mentioned, that preseason odds. This is where you can really hammer down, and with the fantasy knowledge that you guys have, you're able to throw a few bucks down and profit there.
Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, no, you're fine. No, you're fine. AFC North. This one's a little bit more interesting. You have the Bengals plus 150, Ravens plus 220, Browns plus 425, Steelers plus 450. Very close division there, according to Vegas odds. Do you guys think it's that close?
No,
Yeah.
I think it isn't. I think Browns
This
are
is gonna be
kind of
good.
hyped because of, the whole Deshaun Watson thing. I think Deshaun Watson is a great quarterback, but I still feel like the Browns in general are kind of a mess. I don't feel like they are there to compete just yet. I feel like they are going to win some games. I feel like they are a maybe 9-8 team. at best. But I don't feel like they're honestly a true contender to win the division, because 9-8 is not going to win this division. The Steelers, same. I like the Pickett to Pickens connection. A lot of their team is exciting, but I still don't think that they're there yet. I think within 2 years they could be competing for the top of this division. Ravens could do it if Lamar can stay healthy for a full season. I don't see it. I don't see Lamar staying healthy. He hasn't been able to for years now. So until he proves me wrong, Bengals plus 150. I know I'm going favorite again, but plus 150 is, I'd be hammering that in this division.
I get why the Bengals are plus 150 because of the Ravens having they're basically, I think, the Lamar staying healthy piece away from being a legit contender. With Lamar hurt part of last year, they were still right up there with the Bengals. They had a chance to win the division up until that canceled game in week 17. Anyway, so the Ravens being right there makes sense. I think the Browns are overhyped as well. I think the Steelers are underhyped. I think there's not really a big reason for me to be like, I want to bet the Steelers plus 450 to win the division, because the Bengals and the Ravens are pretty clearly better teams than them. But the Steelers being the bottom is a shock to me because they don't finish below 500. They have a quarterback going into year 2 who already did pretty well in year 1, and with a receiver with Pickens, like you said, like they're a better team than teams give them credit for. And because of that, being 3 to 4 teams deep is why the Bengals are plus odds. They would be my pick as well. But the Ravens being up there at 220, I could see why people would take that as a chance for value.
No, I agree with that one, George. How you mentioned the Steelers. I do favorite the Bengals here. If I were to bet on this division, I would probably go with Bengals as well. But Steelers, it could be an interesting line. If you think they have potential that might not win the AFC North, you can take a look at on the odds right now. It's plus 135 for the Steelers to possibly snag that wild card spot. That could be interesting to take. Tomlin has never really had a losing season. They could still be in it the whole time. That would definitely be a line that I would look at as well. Going
So
on
isn't
to
that
the
similar to the Jets line, and they're plus 270 for their division, and the Steelers are way worse?
yeah, the Steelers are way worse, and they still have plus odds to make the playoffs, while the Steelers have, or the Jets have minus odds, so they're favored
Oh,
to
okay.
make the playoffs. This is the interesting part too. Always make sure when you guys are looking at sports betting that you are getting the best line possible. There's some weird lines out there where the sportsbook might try to lure you into one direction. For instance, if you were to say that the Patriots were going to lose their first game of the season, on one site it might say minus 200. On the other site, it might say minus 150 that they lose week 1 against the Eagles. It's weird wording, but that's something to pay attention to make sure that you're getting your best value.
Okay. So what do we got about the AFC South then?
So then kind of looking at the next odds for the next division, you have the AFC South. This one I figured would be the most interesting for Snyder's perspective here. You have the Jags at minus 155, which is crazy odds for the differential between the team below them, which is the Titans at plus 350, the Colts at plus 600, and the Texans at plus 800. So what is your first instinct here in the AFC South? Where can you find the most value? Snyder?
Anywhere but the Jags, really. Guys, so last year, after 10 games, the Titans were 7-3, the Jags were 3-7. The Jags had a soft second half, including 2 games against the injury depleted Titans, and the Titans lost basically their entire roster to injury, so they fell apart. Like, that's crazy to think that by week 11, we're talking about the Jags being 3-7, barely squeaking into the playoffs because of a bad division, and now suddenly they're minus 155 odds. How? Like, what happened to make them so great? So I would say the best odds here are Titans and the Colts. And Titans have won the division most of the last few years, and they plus 350 odds for a team that is still very talented and could easily win this division again. Like, that's easy money, hammer it. But plus 600 for the Colts is also crazy odds to me, because I think this division is not the best. It is a wide open division. This is a division that honestly the Texans could win. And that's saying a lot because the Texans are hot garbage. But we've been saying for years that the Colts are a quarterback away from being a good team. And yet, when they got Phillip Rivers, Colts were the favorite to win the division. And then we said, nope, Phillip Rivers wasn't it, but they're still only a quarterback away. So then they get Matt Ryan, and they're like, okay, Colts to win the division. Colts were favored. And that didn't work out either. So we were still saying Colts are a quarterback away, and now they get a high drafted rookie, Anthony Richardson, with the mobile ability, with the throwing ability. Is he a question mark? Absolutely. Rookies always are. But they finally get a game changing quarterback, and now they're the third ranked team in the division. After we've been saying for years they're only a quarterback away, like crazy to me. I would hammer the Titans or the Colts odds, whichever one you like more here. But obviously, there's more value in the Colts with the plus 600.
We obviously learned that whoever makes lines at DraftKings, I'm assuming you use DraftKings for this, but they're all pretty similar, listens to the Couch GMs and listen to my hot take about Anthony Richardson being hot garbage this year. Because that with that line, I could see that. No, if the Jags were even and the Titans were like plus 200, 250, I think that would probably be a lot more fair. I know you said that their Super Bowl odds didn't change when they signed D-Hop. I'm not sure if their division winning odds changed, but it looks like they didn't.
They did not.
And I would pound
I
that
was
Titans
monitoring
line
it.
all day. I'd pound that Titans line all day.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you guys. I am a fan of Titans plus 350. I think that Jags line, kind of like the Jets line, is just overinflated with hype. It's in Vegas. They can kind of lure the money into the public's direction where they can say, "Hey, we're going to throw this line at you right now," and kind of make you already kind of think that the Jags are locks in the division. And meanwhile, if you look at it from the football perspective, the fantasy perspective, while the Jags might have the talent that's coming up, there's no lock that they are the favorite to win that division. And I do like how like Snyder mentioning with the Colts. Colts could be a wild card in there. You're right. This is the first time where their odds aren't crazy towards the Colts after they get a quarterback. They had the old Matt Ryan. They had the old Phillip Rivers. Now they bring in a new stud, and I think that's another line to look at is Anthony Richardson plus 600 to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. While I know it's Bijan's to lose at this point with him being plus 275, Richardson's line is something to monitor because he is working under Shane Steichen right now, who just worked with Jalen Hurts last year in a potential MVP run, has similar weapons. Obviously, Richardson has the height, different tools, but is still a gifted athlete that plus 600 might not seem bad. And if you're looking at plus for the Colts as well, that's another line to look at.
Especially with it being a quarterback league, I could definitely see a rookie quarterback winning it over Bijan Robinson, even with him being the favorite.
Yeah, we just discussed, do running backs even matter anyway? Do we need running backs? So Bijan could just fit that scheme there. Moving on then, guys, to the last division of the AFC, you have the once again favorited Kansas City Chiefs, reigning Super Bowl champs at minus 165. That is the highest odds for any division winner. The Chargers at plus 340, which they just paid their man today, a few minutes ago. They have the Broncos at plus 550 and the Raiders at plus 1200. Chiefs have that favorite there. Or is there any team that you guys would sprinkle that money line to see if, or to sprinkle that odds to see if they can potentially win that division?
No, I'm not touching this division. Not even touching it.
Give me a super small bet on the Broncos as a, hey, let's just throw something out there if I have a couple of bucks and hope I hit something. Because they're 550, if you're bringing in Sean Payton, hoping to rejuvenate Russell Wilson's career, they're still not a bad team. I don't hate that. Like, good chance to make some money. But I'm most likely just not betting any of them because the Chiefs aren't worth putting money on since they're the favorite and they're probably going to win it anyway. That's the only other team I would even think about a couple bucks on.
Yeah, I agree. Chiefs minus 165. I'm not touching that. Broncos 550. I don't even know if that line is already pre-inflated or because I know there's some people considering the Sean Payton effect on what he might bring. What would you say their odds would be if they didn't have Sean Payton? Is this already a adapted line or are we looking at something different?
Plus 900. I mean, I think it could be inflated a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. It would be pretty significant without the Sean Payton effect there. So then moving.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I don't know. I also want to say, I don't know what the odds were last year. I don't have them saved. I don't know. I can't find them. But last year, there's no way the Raiders' odds of winning the division was plus 1,200. There's no way. It was definitely better than that. A lot of us actually predicted the Raiders to be really good. Now, I understand that they struggled last year, so you're kind of basing it off of that. But are we really saying that a step from Derek Carr to Jimmy Garoppolo is so bad that they need plus 1,200 odds. Like that's the third worst
Yeah.
in the entire league to be a division winner. Like I really don't feel like Jimmy Garoppolo is that much worse than Derek Carr. Now maybe it's because we're that much higher on the Chiefs this year than we were last year. It's possible, but still, I find that those odds crazy. I'm still not touching it, but I don't think Garoppolo is that much worse than Carr.
My two thoughts into why it's that bad is, one, recency bias is a crazy thing. And the Raiders went from all the hype to spitting in everyone's face with being how bad they were. And the Chiefs went from losing Tyreek Hill, and they're not going to be the same dynasty they had been, to winning with whatever wide receivers they decided to throw out there. So I think it's both.
Okay, I hear you. But my counter argument is if we're going off of recency bias and the power of the Chiefs, then why are the Broncos plus 550?
Sean Payton effect.
Like, it's crazy.
I don't know.
Man's lowering the
Man,
odds.
I don't know.
So then wrapping up the AFC and going on to the NFC, we have the NFC East, starting with the Philadelphia Eagles at minus 135, the Cowboys right behind at plus 190, and then deep is the Giants at plus 850. This was the pre-Saquon line, I believe. I don't think it has changed too much, though, because it might have already been adapted to expect Saquon in there. And then pretty much double that, you have the Commanders at plus 1,600. Eagles minus 135 to win their division again for the first time in 19, 20 years. Are you interested in any other line?
Nope.
Why are the Giants so low?
Yeah, I think they're expecting Saquon to just make a mess of the franchise. I thought they would be at least in the fours, but it might just be that they think the Eagles are that much of a favorite.
The odds have
It has
not
to be because
changed,
the Giants. Okay, it has to be because the Giants haven't beaten the Eagles or the Cowboys. If I had to guess a reason, like they've been running roughshod through pretty much every other team that they've faced, but they can't beat the Eagles or the Cowboys at this point.
Yeah, if I'm going to take a dart throw, low value, like low dollar bet, like I'd throw $1 or $2 on the Giants just for giggles, but I don't see it happening. I see the Eagles winning. The Cowboys find a way to lose, so but I still don't trust the Eagles enough to throw money on the minus 135 because the Cowboys and Giants are pretty decent teams. So, yeah, this is another one that I'm just not touching.
I agree.
If I was putting big money on something, it would be the Cowboys, but I'm trying not to touch anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame you guys there. Minus 135, though, and I know this is the homer pick in me. I'm an Eagles fan. If I were to go with a favorite here, minus 135 is lower than the Chiefs, lower than the Jags. So I would take the Eagles over those two teams to win their division because I'm pretty confident with the Eagles' schedule this year, and especially whoever won the first place in the NFC last year in their division has a pretty easy schedule moving forward. I think the Eagles were ranked the easiest schedule in the entire NFL. Surprise, surprise, Snyder. I know you are happy to hear that as well. But think about it. They're facing the Bucks now, the first place Bucks, who barely made the postseason and now don't have Tom Brady. They're facing the Vikings, who might be a depleted team. Their competition is pretty much going to be the Vikings. And sorry, not the Vikings, the 49ers. If that's the toughest in the entire NFC conference that they have to face that year, it could be interesting to put them on for minus 135.
I like it.
Going on to the NFC North, then, this is the closest statistical division in terms of odds. Lions plus 140, Vikings plus 275, Bears 400, Packers 400. Both tied there at 400. Where's the money?
Yeah, money's with the Vikings to me. I feel like you could also throw some money at the Bears, but I need Fields to show me he's more than just a runner. I don't know if you saw, but Justin Fields came out and said that he is planning to be the first Bears quarterback in years to throw for 4,000 yards this year. He didn't even hit 2,000.
First Bears quarterback ever, you mean?
It might be ever. I didn't want to sound stupid.
I think it's ever.
It might be ever, but 4,000 yard passer is what he's predicting this year. I think that's nuts. I think the dude needs to tamper his expectations a little bit. But I need to see more out of them. I don't trust the Packers. I would put the money on the Bears before I put the money on the Packers. But I like the Vikings. Plus 275. They're still a strong team. Yes, they lost Dalvin Cook. Yes, they've been somewhat of a downswing. But look, they still got playmakers. Cousins can still play when it's not prime time. And with them not being a hot team, they might not have as many primetime games. They also lost Dalvin Cook, but running backs don't matter. They still have Justin Jefferson being exciting out there. So I like the Vikings line plus 275. That's where I'd put my money.
I kind of wish the Packers were like plus 500 and not tied with the Bears. I think if that was the case, I would throw some couple bucks on the Packers because I think that they're almost as good a team as the Bears, even with the quarterback change. And that division's kind of a question mark. We're hoping the young, exciting Lions team can keep it up. The Vikings just win one-score games, and that's got to give up eventually. The Bears, I mean, they were still the worst team in the league last year, even though we like a lot of pieces about them. That's why the Packers have a chance, and that's why this division is so close. But I would have to say my money is with the Bears, which is crazy. It's just saying they're the worst team in the league last year. Because of what they've built around there and the fact that Justin Fields looked like he's ready to take a jump. Maybe not a 4,000 yard passing season jump, but that's a little ridiculous. 4,000 rushing yards, I almost feel like is more attainable, and that's never going to be touched ever.
The dude barely got 2,000. He's shooting for 4,000. Has he ever heard of 3,000? Like, start walking up a little bit there.
Yeah, tamper your expectations. But like, I feel like the Lions are kind of overinflated too. We're all kind of excited for the Lions. We all want to see the Lions take a step. Like, look, we are all kind of fans of underdogs, and the Lions have been underdogs since I've been watching football. I want to see them win this division. I want to see them make a run in the playoffs. A Lions Super Bowl victory this year would be probably the coolest thing ever. But at the same time, it's still Jared Goff. People don't like Jared Goff. It is still you have Jamison Williams, one of their top wide receivers, is suspended to start the year. They lost Jamal Williams, which running backs might not matter, but the dude had all of their touchdowns last year, and now he's gone. They do have Jahmyr Gibbs instead of DeAndre Swift, but we haven't seen Gibbs in the NFL yet. We've seen running backs not actually transfer over to the NFL as much as they did in college, and Gibbs wasn't even that big of a name in college. So we got to see how the whole thing plays together. I'm rooting for the Lions, but I think we need to tamper our expectations on them just a little bit.
Tell me if this is a smart move or not, Kempy. If you want to bet on this division, my advice is wait until after game 1 when the Lions play the Chiefs. If the Lions hang in there with the Chiefs, there's a chance they go to negative odds, in my opinion. Even if they don't win, I think there's a chance that the hype's like, oh, this Lions team's real. They just hung in with the world champs. And then pick your favorite of the group below them. If the Lions come out there and don't look that great, maybe you stay away from it. Or if you think that it was just the Lions got outclassed, but they have a chance to come back, then maybe you bet the Lions when they drop towards like plus 200.
Yeah, this is a division to watch all season long because it is going to fluctuate with how close it is. One win could, especially interdivision, could change these odds completely upside down. If the Packers go out there and absolutely destroy the Lions in whatever week they face early on, that could flip completely. You could see the Packers then at plus 150 or something like that to win the division. So if you're going to bet on this division, maybe take a stab at it early, but also watch it along the season as it goes. Then going into the last division, or sorry, I shouldn't say last division, but the last division I'm kind of interested in here is the NFC South, with the Saints plus 120, the Falcons plus 215, Panthers at plus 400, and the Tom Brady-less Bucks at plus 800. The lowest the Bucks have definitely been in the last 3 seasons. Where are you guys finding any value there? This is a plus money division.
So I told you guys before the podcast that my favorite bet, probably out of all of these, is the Panthers at plus 400. And I say that because I feel like this division is just as wide open as the NFC North. And yet the odds are a little more spread out. I feel like the Saints, I'm not trusting them. I really don't think they're that great of a team. I'm not making them a favorite for anything. The Falcons, maybe Desmond Ridder takes that step forward. Maybe the Falcons do finally start putting something together. But again, they were just one of the worst teams in the league last year. I feel like that is all Bijan Robinson hype. I'm not trusting the Falcons at all. The Panthers, however, I feel like have been a decent team. And last year, I think they surprised some people getting rid of Christian McCaffrey and still winning. And yet they've built a better team this year. They got the top guy in Bryce Young. So I feel like there could be some rookie hype. But in a division like this, anybody can win it. Anybody can win this division because you're playing your own crappy division each team twice a year. So That's 6 games up for grabs right there. You win those 6 divisional games, and boom, you're already the division favorite. You're probably going to win it. And I think the Panthers are a team that could do that. So I'm taking that plus 400 odds right there for me.
I don't really like any of them. I think you're onto something. Snyder was saying the Panthers are your favorite bet. They're probably my favorite bet too, but I don't think I even like them enough to put anything significant on it. So I'm probably staying away. Saints should win the division, but there's not enough. It's not. It had to be like plus 200 for me to be like, yeah, I'll go with the Saints. I just don't see any safe money in this division for me to win.
Yeah, and this could be another one of those divisions where if the Panthers start winning early, those odds could change dramatically. If the Saints start losing, that could drop. So it's something to watch throughout the season as well, just like the NFC North. But plus 400 for the Panthers is definitely an interesting look to see what they can do. We're overlooking the Falcons there with some of the fantasy tools that they have coming into their season at plus 215. I just don't know if I can bet them to win right now, even with the fantasy tools. Do you guys agree?
No, I agree completely. I think it's, like I said, I think it's Bijan Robinson hype. I'm not touching it. And by the way, guys, if you're out there and you're thinking about sports betting, I've talked to people about sports betting before, and they're like, oh, I don't want a gambling addiction. No, I don't want to blow all my money. Just because you're betting, just because you're having fun, doesn't mean you have to blow your entire bank account. Me saying I'll hammer a bet, I bet between $1 to $10 for every bet. I'm not betting more than $10 on anything, so me hammering a bet is $10. But for the most part, all my bets are $1. Now, Kempy, on the other hand, is like, yeah, I threw $1,000 on Russian ping pong and won 10 grand, but that's different. That's if you want to bet that level, you absolutely can. You have that ability to, but you don't have to. So, if you are interested in sports betting, you can just go out there and bet 50 cents on every bet if you wanted to.
Yeah, and always bet responsibly. It's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be interested. It's supposed to be another element of watching sports, just like why we play fantasy. That's why we look at sports lines as well. So have fun with it. Know your limitations, though. Set yourself a bankroll, whether it's by week or by month, to make sure that you're staying within your means while you are sports betting as well, and have fun. Remember, like Snyder mentioned, you don't want this to turn into anything extreme. So just enjoy it. If you ever find yourself getting angry while sports betting, don't bet. That's all it takes.
Yes, 100%.
All
And
right, Kevin,
this
we got one division left. What do we got?
one division, let's see if is it interesting though. NFC West, Niners minus 160, Seahawks plus 195 is the closest. Then we got plus 10 or plus 1000, and then we got plus 2500 with the Cardinals. So in a division that used to be so close where we thought all four of these teams could potentially make it into the playoffs, I know that was a bet just within the last 2 years. Any value in this division? Are you touching it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm throwing money on the Rams. Plus 1,000.
Thank you.
They won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Like, yeah, I'm going Rams. Like, look, I know they've been on a downswing. I know they haven't been playing up to par, but they're still a strong team. They still have Aaron Donald. They still have Cooper Kupp. Like, they still have some strong pieces. And I know the 49ers are a dominant team, and I wouldn't want to play them either, especially with that defense. But the 49ers have also had a horrible injury history. I feel for you, Niners, as a Titans fan. I get it. But they have a horrible injury history. You're talking about Brock Purdy coming off an injury. You're talking about Trey Lance coming off an injury. Brock Purdy has played half a season. Trey Lance has only played a few games. We really honestly don't have a great grasp on what either of them can really do. Yes, Purdy came out and had some huge flashes, but he was also a low round pick for a reason. There's also tape on him this year. There's also scouting against him, so you can kind of see what's going on. Plus, like I said, coming off an injury, there's a good chance the 49ers offense doesn't have what it takes. And Christian McCaffrey has not been able to stay healthy for years. Yeah, he finally did it last year, but who's to say that doesn't build up? Christian McCaffrey goes down. Debo's been struggling with injuries. These quarterbacks don't play the way you think they are. And suddenly the 49ers are not such a dominant NFC team. Suddenly they're not a division winner. Do I still think they're going to win? Absolutely. But for plus 1,000, give me some Rams money. I am definitely throwing some at that.
Matt Stafford, reportedly no limitations in training camp. Cooper Kupp coming back. They'll figure out a running game situation. Sean McVay with another year in the think tank in his mastermind there, trying to figure out how to make this offense work. Rams plus 1,000 is insane to me too. I'm glad you said it because I was going to if you didn't. I would pound the Rams in this, and 49ers probably going to win. Rams I like better than the Seahawks, and look at those odd differences: 195 to plus 1,000.
Yeah, I feel like Seahawks are a lot of recency bias again.
Oh, 100%. They have no reason that we could be like, oh, they're going to replicate this. There's no bet at all they replicate what they did last year.
Yeah, that has to be one of the more inflated odds in this division, especially. And then the Rams, and I mean, Cardinals are what they are, but the Rams are definitely the opposite. They're more like, what have you done for me lately? Rams have done nothing. They're done. So that is definitely a good line to keep in mind at plus 1,000. Put $1 down, you're winning $10. So can't beat that. But
what else you got here? Some other things to look out for.
Yep, these are my three biggest bets that I have of this season that I'm looking at least the preseason bets. These are kind of contradictory with what we talked about earlier, quick, but I'm going to say Dolphins are going to miss the playoffs entirely at minus 110. I like it. It's about even money for the sportsbook terms. And it's not because of lack of talent in fantasy production. I took a few things in consideration that I think might have might sway those odds. Like I could see the odds being a lot favorable, but I'm saying it is because they have the hardest schedule this season. According to the director of predictive analytics at Action Network, they have the toughest schedule this season. They have road trips to Kansas City, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Los Angeles. Looking at all those travel trips, that would accumulate 27,000 miles this season that they would travel as a team, which in perspective, it's the only team above 26,000 that isn't Seattle, San Francisco, California, or any other of the teams in California. So that caught my attention as something that might put an effect on their odds, which is why I'm going to take them at minus 110 to miss the playoffs with a difficult division, with a difficult conference as well. The next one is the Titans at plus 350.
I think really betting on any AFC team to miss the playoffs is a pretty decent bet because if you think about it, the AFC is such a stacked conference this year. The NFC is pretty light. You have your couple teams that could win it. Outside of that, like there's really not much. The AFC is so deep that really there's going to be some good teams that miss the playoffs this year. So I really like your track there with the Dolphins to miss.
I think that's going to be a challenge for them. That division, that conference, it's not going to be an easy road. Fantasy wise, though, I'm still taking those tools. I'm still looking at Tua. I'm still looking at Tyreek Hill. I'm looking at Waddle because they are going to be in games, but it might not be the easiest to win against teams like Kansas City, Philadelphia, and traveling all the time to different time
zones. That works
zones.
well for pass catchers too, because if they're playing from behind, if they're playing in close games, they're going to be trying to push the ball down the field.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We talked about the Titans at plus 350. I love that line. I think that is a silly line. They should at least be in the plus 200s right now at the bare minimum. I think they're going to win. Looking deeper into the DraftKings Sportsbook, though, I found a prop. The Titans to score a touchdown in every single game this season is plus 100. Even money, literally even money for them just to score a touchdown, rushing any type, every single game. The last time they didn't do that was against Denver in 2019. That was the first game of Ryan Tannehill making his debut for the Titans. So that one could be something to watch out for. Plus 100, I feel like, is a silly number for what we could expect in a healthy Titans offense.
I mean obviously,
if they even did it last year, if they even did it last year when we considered them a dumpster fire at the end of the year with all the injuries, then I think that's a pretty good bet in my eye.
And Malik Willis and Josh Dobbs were scoring touchdowns, then yeah, they can do it.
I mean, you missaid Derrick Henry, but yeah, pretty much.
Henry missed some games too, so it's the whole team.
You're not wrong. They had some good running backs as backups, but they just have a good scheme in general for the running game.
And my last bet that I'm focusing on here is the heaviest odds that I've seen. It is an interesting one that you can only get preseason on DraftKings Sportsbook. It is the San Francisco 49ers to be the last undefeated team in the NFL. All right. They have the second easiest schedule next to the Eagles because, once again, I mentioned that they're facing the Vikings, the Bucks as their first place scheduling. And they have no repeats in their division until December 10th, which is against the Seahawks in week 14. That's something to consider because divisional games can be an easy toss-up for some weeks. So the fact that they're not having a repeat in their division till week 14 is something to keep an eye on. They're facing teams like the Steelers, Rams, Giants, Cardinals, Cowboys, Browns, Vikings, Bengals, Jags, Bucks, Seahawks, Eagles. So there are some tough ones in there, but if they can just win one of those games and flip with their division, they could be the last remaining undefeated team for plus 1,400. That's a line that I definitely like.
Yeah, I like that a lot,
like it.
honestly, because AFC, again, so AFC is so deep, so many strong teams that all of those teams could lose any given week because of the schedule that they're going to face. The Eagles could be one of the last undefeated teams, but if you got the better odds on the 49ers, it's those two teams right now. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at Eagles, 49ers. It's going to be those two teams are going to be the top of the NFC, and we're just waiting to see which one's better. Maybe the Cowboys sneak in there and they actually surprise us, but outside of that, I feel like it's going to be those two. So betting on either one of them to be the last undefeated team, I love the bet. Absolutely love the bet. And if you're in a Survivor League, ride the 49ers if you can. Pick your week and start them. You don't want to get out in week 1 like half of the NFL did last year. Stupid Broncos.
Darn Titans, I think it was.
Titans
right?
and Giants.
Oh, it was the Broncos.
Giants went for the
against
walk-off.
Giants and the Broncos. The stupid Broncos not being good when we all thought they were going to be good.
And the Seahawks aren't going to repeat this year, like we said. So
Painful.
All right, I think with time, we have to get out of here. But thank you, Kempy, so much for coming on and talking some sports betting with us. Look forward to having you on in the future to keep talking about how these things change from now until we get into the season and even partway through the season, I'm sure. Cody misses us, but he will be back with us next episode. Tyler, you want to say something?
Yeah, Kempy, I have one question for you real quick. So people out there betting, right now, if you had to put money on one team to win the Super Bowl, who are you putting the money on right now?
I think I am going to ride exactly what I just said in my last bet. I am taking the San Francisco 49ers right now. And let me just double check what the odds are at the current moment. Those odds are at plus 1,000. So $1 to win 10, 10 to win 100. I am taking the San Francisco 49ers. My only question is Brock Purdy. I will have to look in to see how that rides out in the beginning of the year. But if he can be a plug-and-play quarterback and can remain healthy, keep his arm on his shoulder, I think he can be pretty successful.
Keep his arm on his shoulder, he says.
Or arm on elbow. Just any type of medical advice, that's what I would give him, and they could win a Super Bowl.
Keep his elbow on his arm.
Yeah.
That's something. Some kind of normal... fine. All right, let's get out of here before this gets worse. Thank you all one more time for listening into this episode of the Couch GMs podcast. We'll be back with you in 2 weeks for Tyler Snyder and Tyler Kemp. I'm George Kerth. See you all next time.
Boom.
Nice. Choo-choo.
Hammer the line.
Hammer the line. Hammer it.